Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. Now I want to call this a guide, but it kind of isn't. It's more like a documentary with tips as to my build style and my builds. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I've had a lot of comments in videos, but also people coming into stream and saying, man, your builds look so great. I wish I could do this myself. I've had 3 months in the game and I'm still like building spaghetti. And the first thing that I should say is that we all have aspects to our builds that we're not happy with. Don't worry about it. It's a process. And there's no right way to play this game like this. I mean, I am going to fix this, I promise you. This is just an example. I promise it's gonna go. But what I do think is super important and something that's going to be so cringeworthy for me is that we go through all of my saves stage by stage and we see what happened. After all of this factory is just experience from 4,000 hours of gameplay, in fact more. So without further ado, let's get over to the early save. And I should mention, if you dislike the spaghetti, or if you like the spaghetti that you're about to see, make sure to hit the thumbs up. And obviously, if you want to see more content from me, do remember to subscribe by the end of the video. This feels like we're stepping out into a whole new world again. This was the last part of the factory before we had to restart for update 3. So we're going to go to the very beginning, which is over in the plains. Oh, this is a mess and I'm already regretting it. Now I do have to emphasize here that because this was my very first world, there was a lot of experimenting going on for all of the videos that I was doing at the time. So a lot of it is experimentation. And here we are. Welcome to the birth of Total. And again, this is just to reassure you that we all start somewhere. This was actually my second restart because my first 40 hours were a true mess and my save got corrupted. So this was an improvement, believe it or not. Welcome Tractor, what are you doing there? I wasn't even aware I was using them. Anyway, the point is, when you first start out, the chances are you're going to get a bit overwhelmed. And it was at this point, having done the starter materials and putting them into, I tried to do like a wall of industrial, like of containers as a buffer for all my supplies. Really bad idea. But anyway, we did that. And then we started to build the first clean factory, I want to say. Oh dear. I mean, it looks all right from here, I guess. In all fairness, despite it being my first proper factory, we did have some really cool ideas. But when you're trying to get through the tiers as fast as possible, mess starts to happen. I mean, this isn't that bad, but, and this is going to be my most shameful moment. Okay, so this is your 5-second warning. Look away now. Look away, because this is the thing I am most freaked out about my build, and the worst thing by far. I mean, the spaghetti is real, and there's clipping, and I mean, I'm sorry. But this was kind of, I guess, cathartic for me, because at this point I knew I needed to start fresh. I then moved on to a whole new style, which were these super compact factories that were able to produce X number of items in these tiny spaces. And you'll find these littered across my map. As you can see, we even have a few on the cliffs over here, which is by the big waterfall, which brought me to a whole new idea, which was to build a factory within the void. And as you can see, I actually tried doing pixel art. This was my attempt at a boo, but alas, doesn't look great. We built this massive factory, which you can't see the ends of underneath here, which were producing things like the oscillators and computers. But we spotted something else while we were down here. Across from here, in that little corner, there was once a gaping hole to the underworld. Unfortunately, they've sealed it now, but we can still get there. The way that we have to get there, though, is through this little tunnel, because I was actually a little bit concerned that they would seal it. You see, funny thing, hindsight, I actually did something right for once. And here we have our little underground factory. It's actually quite big. But I love how it went all through the underground and then it just opens up. The idea would have been to eventually have sealed this. And now that we've removed the fog, you can actually see the factory. There's the test stuff for the rail videos, and then we have the underground factory that I was building. We also have a random fuel plant underground. This was before we needed water as well. So all it required at the time was just coal through the middle. Oh, how things have changed. For the better, I should add. And this was when I built my first circular storage. In fact, I think it might even be the first circular storage that was developed by anyone, at least to put it online. And the idea, I like to think, was quite unique because all of the resources would have come down from above to the storage area. And so here we are, those two circular systems on the left and the right, those were the elevators for all the resources. We also had a personal elevator. Unfortunately, this elevator doesn't work anymore because they've changed these jump pads, so they're just not charging. But originally it would take you all the way to the top. It's pretty cool. And that's when I decided to start playing about with this and developing a mega factory. And as you can see, this is where we really started focusing on organization, keeping everything clean. So we've gone from spaghetti mess and trying everything to then playing about with keeping things compact. Well, I'm gonna die. And then arguably going to our first clean factory with underfloor loading. And I must admit, I was really happy with how this had developed. And I found that with each restart, I was trying something new, or with each new factory that I was building. And that's really important. And it's fantastic that I'm able to reflect on this and show you guys, despite a bit of shame, how I've developed my skills. As you can see here, we've done a pretty clean approach to multiple level manifolds. So everything was changing with each playthrough, which is really important. We're now going to jump over to a whole new save. Ah, yes, another 200 odd hours of experimentation. This factory is actually much smaller, and that was because I was traveling around South America at the time and playing on a really low quality laptop. But still, lots of interesting stuff happened with it. Plenty for us to talk about. First off, you can see how we've got this lower floor, which is clear. This became something that I really wanted to have for this. The factory to the left is the old one. And then above, we have all the loading. Each area also had its own dedicated section, so the factories became much cleaner. Everything was also balanced so that everything was efficient. Moving on from the flooring sections, we actually started building the walls, and then we'd have the resources underneath the glass sections. There were some really nice ideas, but alas, we returned from South America, and that's when we started the 5x5 challenge. Unfortunately, I seem to have lost the save, so this is the first 60 hours. That being said, the 5x5 constraints made it really difficult for me to build a clean base. It was really useful to me as well because it gave me the experience of tearing down a factory and rebuilding it to make things fit within a small space. And though this 60-hour save doesn't really do it justice, I was really happy with what we achieved and the experience that it gave me, and allowed me to start a new save, the one that we're currently doing. And this in itself has been a huge experience. And we have definitely achieved some incredible things, but we've also learned a huge amount from what we've done as well. And none of this, in my eyes, is perfect. But one thing that I often mention in our live streams, which is twitch.tv/TotalXclipse, you can find me Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, is that all of this is an experiment for 1.0. You can see that we have open floor factories with underfloor logistics that we're trying out here. We're also using rail lines. You can see that we're also playing about with conveyor buses which connect to distributing centers. We're also playing around with architecture styles and different types of factories, such as the Chicago school-style builds that we have here. There's also prairie-style architecture that we've been trying out, and modernism. All of this is a process of developing the experience that we need for later down the line. Nothing started out perfect. I've also noticed my own faults. For example, if I build something and I don't build it beautifully to start off with, then the chances are it's going to take me forever to get back and do it. But when I do dedicate the time to it, I am certainly capable of some pretty cool things, and so are you. And also, we're not always to blame. I mean, this was Coffee Stain. They mucked this up. And don't forget the generators for update 3 when liquids came. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we do get precious with our builds, and we don't want to restart. But if I hadn't had that impetus to restart, then I would never have evolved my skills each time I start a new game. I really do owe everything to being willing to start over again. And in my experience, a lot comes just down to experience and the amount of time you have in game, but also persevering and pushing through to try and make things better. And though you may argue a lot of it comes down to talent and to actually have these ideas in mind, and not everyone can have that. But you can quite clearly see that I did not start off with talent. I just was able to put in a lot of time and develop skills from there. So if you are new to the game, if you've only got 4 or 5 months of experience in, and you're wondering why you're not creating these factories, don't worry about it. It's a process. Each one of us has a process that we've got to go through, a journey, and there's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy it. It really is a magical experience. But guys, I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please do drop a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're interested in this process that I made in order to build this, there's an excellent time lapse that I did earlier. I'll leave the end card as it so that you can check it out and you can see how it was from scratch. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to all of our amazing supporters, most notably our Solar Eclipse patrons, The Calamity, Cerebral Tag, James Irwin, and Jerry 2, as well as our Lunars, Dixie Chris, Lord of July, and Ben, and our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Papa Snoozy. Anyway guys, until next time, as always, ciao for now.